Assalamualaikum. Welcome to another video. Today our topic is tackle these tricky English sentences. Join me as I take on some of the trickiest English sentences out there. Let's see if I can tackle them without getting tongue-tied. Mastering tricky English sentences is like leveling up in a language game. It takes your skill to the next level. These sentences are not just about grammar rules, they are about understanding the nouns that make English so expressive and sometimes perplexing. One of the biggest hurdles learners face is figuring out the word order. English has a relatively flexible word order compared to some languages, but this flexibility can lead to confusion. For example, when adjectives and adverbs are thrown into the mix, it can get pretty tricky. Learners also struggle with idiomatic expressions and phrasal verbs, which often do not translate directly from their native languages. Another challenge comes from sentences that seem to loop back on themselves, also known as embedded sentences. These require a good understanding of how clauses work together. And let's not forget about sentences with multiple negatives or positives that can flip the meaning entirely if not parsed correctly. Let's dive into some examples to see what I mean. Consider this sentence: the more he learned, the less he knew. At first glance, it seems paradoxical. The structure here involves a comparative form that flips expectations. Another example is having finished the project, Johan went to bed. This sentence shows how a participle phrase can modify the main clause. A trickier one might be, by the time I got there, they had already eaten. Here, understanding the timeline is crucial. One sentence that often trips people up is, what the teacher said made me realize I had been wrong. The complexity here lies in the fact that it's a complex sentence where the subject and verb agreement are not straightforward. A closer look reveals that what the teacher said act as a single unit or a noun clause, which then dictates the verb form in the main clause. The key insight is recognizing how clause function as unit within larger sentence. Here are a few more examples of tricky English sentences. The book, which was written by my favorite author, is one of the best seller list. This sentence uses a non-restrictive relative clause, which was written by my favorite author, to provide additional information about the book. Second, by the time I arrived, they had already eaten dinner. This sentence uses the past perfect tense had already eaten to show that one action happened before another in the past. If I were you, I would take the job offer. This sentence uses the subjunctive mood if I were you to express a hypothetical or unreal situation. Fourth, the more you practice, the better you will become. This sentence uses a comparative structure, the more the better, to show a cause and effect relationship. Fifth, having finished my homework, I went to bed. This sentence uses a participle phrase, having finished my homework, to show an action that happened before the main action. These sentences illustrate various aspects of English grammar that can be tricky, such as relative clause, verb tenses, and sentence structures. To tackle these tricky sentences, it is essential to practice. A quote, practice can make man perfect. Understanding the theory is one thing, but applying it is what really solidifies your knowledge. The goal is to become comfortable with the complexities of English so that you can express yourself clearly and confidently. If you have got your own tricky sentences or questions, I had loved to hear them. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more language tips and challenges. Thank you.